Welcome to the Huddle, where we come together to break down the key plays in our financial playbook. We all achieve financial success on and off the court, and you might be wondering, who am I? I'm Renee Montgomery. No, this is not Montgomery and Company. I'm here with Invesco QQQ and my homies now. I'm joined by Ryann Kilgore, Marketing Director at UBS and former women's basketball player at Providence College. And I'm also joined by Bob Caruso, VP Senior Advisor Consultant at Invesco. So Ryann, Bob, first of all, thanks for being here with me in the Huddle.
Thank you for having us.
Let's go, squad. Let's go. Let's have a good little conversation. Bob, I want to start with you because thinking about college days, think back to your freshman year at Boston College. Like, take it in. Think about those moments. And I'm just curious, when you're stepping on campus, meeting with friends, and trying to figure out your class schedule, like, how would you describe your financial knowledge at that time?
On a scale from 1 to 10, it was probably a 1. So got to college with very little experience in investing, budgeting, any of that. Probably got my education from my parents, mostly in checking accounts, savings accounts, and ran into some problems early on when you don't have any background or basis for financial wellness.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because there's not really a class that you go to before college that really gets you financially prepared or in the mindset to make money, what to do with the money. And Ryann, I'm just curious, like, why do you think like financial literacy is so important, especially for these young student athletes? We're in this NIL world, so I'm just like, if you had to tell them where's a good place to start, but also the importance of it.
Yeah, it's very important. It's a lot of money. And I know you just asked Bob, like, his financial literacy in college. My financial literacy in college was also not very good. And we had a little bit of money in college. And these kids have a lot of money being thrown at them, which makes them vulnerable for a lot of people coming at them that could take advantage of them. So it's really important for them to understand the basics so that they can set their parameters and work with true experts to really help and guide them.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I guess this is like the trifecta because I too knew nothing when I was going. So it's funny we're all talking about it, but I think that's a good baseline for people to really understand that just because you don't know anything right now, that's not really a big deal because everything is a learning process. Learning sports was a learning process. You didn't pick up the ball and know how to hoop right away. And so I think people should start thinking about all of their journey and their goals in a sense of it doesn't matter where you're starting at right now, growth is the goal. And so Ryann, you talked about like budgeting and different things of that nature. What are some practical tips? Because budgeting, it sounds good until I see something that I want. So
yeah. And then the budget goes out the door.
What's some practical tips for budgeting?
Practical tips, you should always have at least 3 to 6 months of your regular expenses in savings account for emergencies, right? Like we all know a car can break down, you can have a medical bill come through, anything can happen. And if you don't have a rainy day fund, all of a sudden you look up and you've just drained everything, or worse, you don't have the money, and then people resort to things like using credit cards or getting into debt to pay for some of that stuff. And so in order to have a budget, it's not just about like, I want to make sure I'm budgeting for the fun things and for my long-term future. You also have to prepare for rainy day scenarios because life happens. It happens to all of us.
Yeah.
And in order to make sure that you have savings, you can't deplete it. So the rainy day funds and making sure you set aside money to pay yourself is extremely important in that.
You have to really take into account what things are a priority to you and what things aren't. I'm curious if you have any budgeting tips from your end of just how do you stay disciplined in your budget, and what are some tips?
Yeah, I mean, needs and wants, which is what I think Ryann was getting at. And, there's a rule that you may have seen, 50, 30, 20, 50% of your net income goes to things that you need. Rent, utilities, food. 30% will go for things like going out to dinner, right? That's the discretionary money.
Oh, that's my bucket
right?
right
We
there.
all love
I like that bucket.
Right. We might make that a little larger than we should. And then the 20%, the last 20 should be for not just short-term goals, but long-term goals from an investing standpoint.
Yeah.
The more you put away today, the more you're going to be better off tomorrow.
My family always makes fun of me because I'm always planning. Like I'm an over planner, and I always say, look, I'm trying to help my future self out. Like present me was comfortable because past me was taking care of future me. A lot of times when I'm investing in a company, just me as an individual, because there's a different ways to invest. You can invest in, like you talked about, stocks, different things. But even if I'm investing in a company, I always try to invest in things that I would be interested in. Investing might sound so hard to people sometimes, and but sometimes it's just like you said, it can be automated, it can be simplified. Ryann, I'm curious, how did your experience as a student athlete and your career almost shape how you experience the real world and how you invest too? Like, does anything from your student athlete world, did that help you in your investment world?
It did. It helped me from a career perspective, but it also helps me to keep like an entrepreneurial mindset. So in the workplace, right? Like again, we talk a lot about like paying ourselves and then knowing how to navigate the corporate landscape. And that's just all about hard work, discipline, routine, schedule. Those are things that we're used to doing as a student athlete. And so they translate very well into your day-to-day work life. And again, as you continue to move up, you make more money. And then you start looking at what are some alternative ways for me to invest. And so leveraging, again, a professional to help me with like, where should I put my money for the long term? What are some of the new things that are out there? What am I not thinking about when looking at my total financial picture? And then again, taking that entrepreneurial mindset and saying like, do I need to have some other investments outside of the traditional stocks, bonds, and et cetera, type of investment vehicles that you can be looking into? And again, that's all just a part of being an athlete. Understanding your hard work will help you to get a lot of those things.
I think that sometimes you might make investments, but people need to understand, like, once you make that investment, it's not like an instant gratification, like, because I just think in the world that we live in, I almost want to prepare people to understand, like, investments a lot of time are long term. Can either one of you talk on that a little bit? Because I think in this world of instant gratification, even athletes and student athletes, we're used to things happening fast. Investments aren't necessarily that way.
Delayed gratification.
Yeah.
And the 3 golden rules of investing, which are time, right? Time in the market. I heard Ryann talk about this earlier. Second is diversification. And third is dollar cost averaging, putting the same dollar amount in every month on an ongoing basis.
Wow. And so to me, that just, like, I'm always going to speak, I sports explain everything. Consistency is key. Like, so
Right.
in sports, we always talk about consistency. Every day you put in those hours, every day you put in the reps.
Right.
It's the same that
It is.
it's the same
discipline.
in
right.
discipline and
Yes.
investing. I'm starting to hear that.
And it's a routine. Like
Yeah.
just like anything else that you do, it has to be part of your routine. So again, we all know that getting our check is routine when it's coming, right? You check your account to make sure that it's there and all the money's there. But then having the practice of, okay, how much of this am I setting aside for my long term? What's in my emergency fund? What is like, this is my like fun money, my shopping money, whatever we want to call it. Just having that routine and discipline, make sure that no matter what, you're going to have your goals at the end of the day.
Guys, I'm learning right along with y'all, by the way. Like, I'm sitting with 2 experts. I'm not an expert at this. And so I'm asking questions for them that I would like to know myself. A lot of times people want to make sure that they're doing things a safe way. So I'm curious, like, how can we ensure that we're continuing to offer approachable and safe spaces for students to talk about their finances and, like, while in school, so they feel confident making those financial decisions after graduation? Ryann, we'll start with you.
You have to work with a professional, and again, you need to not only work with a professional, but with a reputable firm, and make sure that the people that you're talking to are giving you sound and balanced advice, and truly working with the team that surrounds them that are truly catering to you and what your needs are. So if you walk in the door to go and talk to somebody and they're just like, oh yeah, just buy this or just do that, they didn't take 5 seconds to understand what your situation is, probably not the best person for you. And again, like making sure that they sit down and understand, okay, what's your situation? What are your long-term goals? What is it you want to accomplish with your financial vision? And again, making sure that that person not only talking to you just as, let's just say, an advisor, but you have an accountant, you have a trust person there, you have like the business manager, you have your brand ambassador. All of those people should be collectively working together to make sure you're reaching your goals.
Love that. I call it like building your squad. So even for me, like, I was a point guard, so I'm the one that's usually dishing and stuff, and I'm still the point guard, but in my brand. So to that point, I have a financial advisor, I have a tax person, I have a person that just does the monthly expense reports so that I know how much is going out and how much is coming in, because please, people, know how much money you're spending. I know it sounds like so basic, but for me, it was eye-opening. You won't know if you're in and out of your budget if you're not checking. So just like you have a squad, a point guard, a shooting guard, I feel like you need to build your squad in the business world, whether that's your agent, your finance advisor, your other person. So, Bob, I want to end with a question for you. I hear a lot of times, I'm just going to give you an example. Like, I heard a lot of social managers and stuff came from the athlete world because they feel like it. Is there a world where finance, I don't know if there's a connection. That's a hard question, but I'm curious. Like, if I'm an athlete and I'm like, what would I do in the finance world?
I've seen and worked with many athletes from a college level, even a pro level in financial services, specifically in sales. So it's such a competitive business. And if you're an athlete, like D1 athlete, right? Or you, right? You go pro, you're competitive. And so those competitors usually do really well, specifically in areas like distribution, sales, things like that. And they get having a coach. Like, you know, you've done that. Like, if you're an athlete, you have a coach, you understand that relationship, and you've done that. You put yourself at the center, and you have all these coaches around you to help you and your brand and your future self as well. So I'd have people look at that.
Interesting. Okay, I like that. I appreciate y'all both sharing your insights and thoughts. Like I said, today was kind of for me. I know that there's listeners, and thank y'all for listening, but I feel like everybody, there's not a human out here that finances don't touch. You know, like I say this a lot, for there's certain things that everybody has to deal with. Taxes, finances are one of those. So it's not like there's a world where you can get around it. So you might as well start trying to get in the game, huddle up, because I think that everything's a game. And if athletes are listening, like you said, it's a competitive world. Finances are a competitive world. Like, even right now, I'm competing with myself. I want to see, how big can I grow this thing? How big can we make this? How many people can I employ without going under too? All these things are a thought process of, I want to give jobs, I want to make money, generational wealth. And it starts with that investing. It starts with budgeting, and it starts like right now. So I appreciate y'all talking to me. I thank you for the listeners. And I hope you got some little nuggets to take away. I'm telling you, re-listen to this. These are experts in their field, and also former athletes, so they understand the grind. They understand the commitment, the consistency. But now we just changed it to the finance game. We'll see y'all next time.